Everybody good? All right. It is June 21st, summer solstice, also Indigenous Day across Canada. And we are going to open our meeting at 6:35 now. And I would like to welcome everybody here. Thanks for everyone attending. Thanks for staff being here. Brent, Berna, and council, and Cindy for dialing in from the States. Thank you. The town of Turner Valley acknowledges traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region and southern, did I say Turner Valley?
You did.
Default. The town of Diamond Valley acknowledges the traditional territories of the people of Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, members Siksika, Kainai, and Kainai First Nations, the Stoney Nakoda, Bearspaw, Chiniki, and Wesley First Nations, the Dene and Tsukusina First Nations, and the Métis Region 3, all of those that make Treaty 7 land their homes. We have an exit right here, which goes up there and kicks out the back. We have the double doors at the front. You can run out there and don't go through there. There's nothing. It's a closet. Bathrooms are in the corner. If you're going to go to the bathroom, bring a friend and have them guard the door because they like to open on their own when you hit the button. So that's a fair warning. Bring a friend. It's kind of like bar rules if you're one of the girls, right? You're going in pairs. Okay. We have that. We have an agenda in front of us and we have 0 additions. Is that correct, Council? Hazel? Yeah, go ahead.
I just asked for clarification on a motion that was made on the May 9th.
Okay, do you want to bring that in at, well, we'll do question period. We'll bring that one up if there's none from the.
Or maybe an admin inquiry section.
Yeah, sure.
Can we maybe do it before we discuss the next report?
Yeah, well, if we put it in the question period, it's going to be right there.
Okay.
That's on the first thought.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. All right, so we're just going to add Councilor Martin's clarification. All right. Good. With that, I'll take a motion, Councilor Martin.
As amended,
Thank you.
to amend the agenda.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Cindy. Meeting minutes 3.1, June 7th, 2023. Can I get a motion to adopt those? Councillor Thompson, any errors or omissions? Being none. We are all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. 3.2, meeting minute council committee of the whole, June 13th, 2023. I'll get a motion for that one. Councillor Gordon gives me that. Any errors, omissions, clarifications? Being none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. 3.3, meeting of the special meeting minutes of June 15th, 2023. Councillor Kloiber gives me that. Any errors or omissions? Points of clarity? Being none, all in favor? That is carried. Right. Question period. The question period is the section of the council agenda, usually 15 minutes in length, that we have for the public to ask questions of council or administration for points of clarity around anything residential, tax wise, anything you want, really. You can email, text, talk to a councillor, text a councillor, however you want to get us the message, we will answer it. And usually we look to Ms. Middleton for any information. Have we received any form of question period or question period?
We have, Mr. Mayor, I have 2 questions.
Excellent.
I will break them up.
Thank you. All right. We have council, the stop sign in Seclusion Valley be removed. Presently, it is on the front lawn of one of the homes. I would like to propose we put the yield sign up where the light standard is on the opposite side. It is very difficult to see the cars coming down the street. We have to crank our necks around to see anyone is coming. And I know exactly what you're talking about because I just blown right through a couple times, and we'll just be honest, because everybody does. And so that is one. I'm going to pass that down. There's a little drawing there. So let's just talk about that one right now first. So now we're talking coming down the hill, right? Rather than looking back with the 270.
Yeah.
We're talking yield sign
For the ones coming from the south.
From
And
the
then
left.
heading east. So if you recall, I did kind of bring this forward a few months ago, so perhaps Mr. Beaton has an update on what the team has looked at.
Good.
Thank you. Through the chair, this has come forward to administration probably 3 years ago. It was, a few options were investigated. One option was favored. I understood it was supposed to come towards council for a decision for making that change. I agree. A yield sign on the other side of the road would be more suitable for that intersection and removing that stop sign.
The resident is in here tonight as well, if you wanted to ask any questions.
Yeah. No, I think we all know exactly what it is. Mr. Rod, to remove a stop sign, what's the process to change from a stop sign to a yield sign? Through town processes? Is there a notice period that we need to give? Because I remember when we did Bailey Ridge, we had a massive issue of removing 2 stop signs and allowing 16th Ave to just flow through. So is there a process or is this Public Works domain?
Mr. Mayor, I'm not familiar with the Trinity Valley policy, but the town of Black Diamond policy for traffic control devices was at the discretion of the public works manager or the CAO. So if it's entirely a local road and not involving a provincial highway, be at the discretion of restoration. Craig can provide some insight on Trinity Valley's policy.
Great.
And through the chair, Mr. Mayor, the Turner Valley process was needed, any significant traffic changes needed to be approved by council.
Any comments?
I'm ready to make that motion if it has to go through council. I mean, Craig's mentioned that there's a need for it, so
Yeah.
Cindy may want to chime in.
Let's just go to Cindy quick. Cindy, any comments? You lived over there.
Yeah. Oh, I lived over there. I absolutely agree that the current state's silly. So what I'm hearing is that we had brought this forward 3 years ago and then it got dropped, but we're all in agreement that we can change it. If so, go ahead on the motion. I'm happy.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'll just make the simple motion that we move the stop sign at its current location, replace it with a yield sign on the southwest little corner as you come into Seclusion Valley.
Great. That's clear. Excellent. Any
I
further-
just type in, we should request some public notification for the neighborhood along with that motion, to let people know. I'm not sure what the best way I'll let admin, but just maybe a friendly amendment, if you could include, some form of public notification or just a new signage coming or something, that would be great.
Excellent recommendation. Let's go Craig first and then you can make that amendment. Craig?
Through the chair, councillor, we would typically, whenever we did make a traffic sign change, we would install the new sign or new traffic sign, just as a one. People have a double awareness.
Can we get a letter to each resident of Seclusion?
I think that's a good
Yeah.
idea.
So
So I'll take that friendly amendment to include notification of the residents of the change through the signage Craig mentioned, but also a letter to the local residents. Just a simple handout thing.
Perfect. Okay,
Thanks, Cindy. Appreciate that.
any further debate?
to say thank you to Dolores for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you. I have one more.
Let's get this one out. All in favor?
It's just a rolling.
There we go.
That one's checked off. This would be number 2 then.
That would be number 2.
All right, here we go.
That's a big one.
I would like to address the parking of vehicles on the east side of Highway 22 from the post office north to the entrance of Seclusion Valley. There's a gray half-ton truck parked on the highway between the fire hall and Seclusion Valley. It seldom moves, if ever. The logging trucks coming through town move over to the other lane, and we have to stop on the road to allow them to pass. We are afraid that we're about to be rear-ended by traffic coming into town from the north. It is my understanding that according to current bylaws, vehicles must move every 72 hours. That one I can't. In Alberta Transportation, some information, phone number responsible for parking. Yeah, Maury?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, Maury Siddons at Alberta Transportation, phone number attached and form that is the responsibility of bylaw. There is a lot of traffic on our highways, parking on the west side of the road. It. That was probably connected to the other sentence. Mr. Matt, I'm gonna call on you for this one. Can you give us some in-depth analysis of parking situations on that particular stretch of road?
For sure, through the chair, thank you. I did have a chat with Ms. Dolores today. We met on site, discussed the issue at hand. So currently, we have signage on that roadway, no commercial parking except deliveries for 1 hour max. Our department doesn't see an issue of vehicles parking excess of 72 hours. We haven't had any complaints from other residents. Chatting with Ms. Dolores, I think the issue at hand is people parking on that side of the road in general, creating a bottleneck for larger logging vehicles getting through, makes the road very narrow. I'm sure Ms. Dolores can narrate a bit more on that.
I imagine you could. Go ahead.
Done this before, so anyway, the truck that I'm talking about. It just so happened that man saw me near his truck, he followed me into Seclusion Valley. And I explained why I was concerned about his truck, and he was gracious enough to move it. That doesn't mean that anybody else is not going to park there. So from Seclusion Valley, at least to where the fire hall is, I would really appreciate it if we could have no parking signs there. The road just doesn't accommodate it, and I think like we drive it every day. And I think if anybody else is paying attention to the traffic that is going through these towns now, it's horrendous, and it's not just the logging trucks. There really is no room for parking on both sides of that highway, so, I appreciate everything that you have done, and even though I was going to give up, remember? I wouldn't let you get out of it that easy. Thank you for sending today. I really appreciate that. But thanks for anything you can do, because I've gone everywhere. Like you have no clue how many people I've talked to about this. MD Foothills says it's your department. It's not them. So that's why I've really tried my very, very hardest to resolve this issue by myself, but I really can't. It's a no parking situation where you decide what you want to do.
Excellent.
Okay?
Thank you for bringing it forward. Okay, so comments on this one. It's a little bit different because we do have a 1 hour commercial exam. I know exactly the half, of course, I drive down to Dunham every day, it's example day, right?
Thank you, Mayor Crane. This issue came to council two and a half years ago at Turner Valley, and a report was submitted to council. And the no parking decision was declined. So we Turner Valley Council had decided to keep that parking available and deem that it was an enforcement issue.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, if I made through the chair, there was an RV or two that had been parked there for an excessive amount of time, and so we directed the importance of bylaw enforcement. However, I think much has changed in the last almost 3 years with the heavy traffic coming in. I think we've all noticed it's not just the logging trucks in reality. There's quite a bit more heavy traffic movement. So I think this is something that should be revisited. And I was going to ask the administration, would we need to do a TIA, a traffic impact assessment to determine that? Or could we just go ahead and, because it's an Alberta Transport maintained road, right? I think that's under their responsibility. But I think we need to really look at a no parking enforcement from the fire hall to Seclusion Valley entrance on the east side. I think that would be a realistic option.
You're gonna go to Councillor Holiday first and then to Thompson.
Yeah, I think if I remember the conversation right, the problem that we have is that if somebody comes into town with an RV, that there is, you know, there's not really that many great parking lots. That's vaguely what I remember about this conversation. Somebody with a horse trailer and RV comes into town, wants to go to Chuckwagon or something, that road, but maybe more in front of the library. But I don't know if we're talking about in front of the entire, like, library to Seclusion Valley, or are we talking about? I missed where
Talking
The parking
Fire
ban.
Hall down.
fire hall down only?
Councillor Thompson, then Merton.
Tricky one. Look at the Main Street, Black Diamond there. Actually, no. Jump over. Demos. Does make it difficult. For see, especially if that interesting. And, so it's a tricky one, and I think that we would be moving traffic study. Traffic light. I think that I would be- It is a bit tricky. I don't know how to resolve it, and maybe it's a ask of administration to look at.
Gonna go Merton first.
Yeah. I have to agree with everything Heather said, is that I think we need to do a little bit more research. And, you know, it's not just from the fire hall down to Seclusion Valley, it's maybe that whole east side, because we also had a business across the street. Also talk about the parking in by the library. And before we start to the library,
There it is.
yeah, where you have for. That's part.
Gordon.
Yeah, I'm in full support of a more detailed study. I wonder, when we're looking at that study, different options can be considered, such as no overnight parking, limited hours during the daytime, because as you mentioned, Constable, the aspect of right now it's commercial, 1 hour only, and I think that goes from the north edge of the entrance into the swimming pool all the way up Seclusion Valley, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so, yes.
So that might be something we can consider. I mean, if the horse trailers are coming in, give them a couple hours to shop around town, that's an option that might be satisfy all needs, but limiting it to an overnight parking, 2 hours max, something like that, an option that could be
Excuse me.
reviewed. I would think that could maybe please multiple parties.
Clover, and then I'll go.
I don't think it's just Turner Valley side issue.
That's what I'm getting at.
My husband bought that building and it is so loud. It's the traffic noise is unbelievable. Bought Wolfpack Studio. So yeah, I would love to see a lower speed limit on a provincial highway that runs through our municipality. I've been asked many times if we could lower the entire thing to 40 in both towns. Not just our municipally owned streets, but the provincial highways as well, just to be clear. But yeah, there needs to be a massive flashing sign that states you are entering a more urban, densely populated area, because people come through these towns, and I'm sorry, I have to make a left turn. I'm not out to get you, but it's 50 for a reason, and people turn off. So if we could get a big report on how we could make pedestrian traffic safety safer and.
I think Cindy did have her hand up.
Yeah, I'm just gonna comment and then I'll go to Cindy. One of the things that I remember the conversation as well is, believe it or not, the opposite was part of the conversation, that vehicles parked on the side created a narrower path, so caution was required by drivers. But that only works if the driver is actually cautious, right?
Yeah.
Right, so one idiot, and there you go. For the most part, it works. Like if you go up to Robert Street, you're playing Frogger the whole way anyway. So there's no ability to rush, but we don't really want to see that on a provincial highway that has the heavy loads that come through there. So Cindy, why don't you wrap us up? And I think we've got some direction here anyway.
Well, I'm just worried about, yeah, taking the time right now. Like, we'd like to solve the issue, obviously, but administration is really busy with a lot of other things. And we did want to look at pedestrian safety in both communities as a whole. So I know it's not very nice to say we'll solve this later, but I think we do need to look at it more big picture than doing a study just for this one area. Although I wouldn't mind if there was something brought to a council, 2-3 years ago, if we could at least see what was done then rather than recreate the wheel, if there is a simple solution. And then otherwise just put this as part of the whole pedestrian safety initiative we wanted to do later on.
That's pretty much in line with the feeling here. So I think that's pretty much what I'm hearing from council, that we want to look at it and want to bring it forward.
Yeah.
Why don't you just give us that motion, Cindy, to include the 2.5-year-old study as well as add it to the pedestrian safety for the overall project. And Miss Dolores is going to go out of here with a batting average of 500. That's not bad. How's that?
But what I'm thinking is if the report's already done, if I can make a friendly amendment to that, have that come forward sooner rather than later, and we can see what happened, what administration advised 2.5 years ago, because there's so many new counselors. And then we can make a decision in that. Is that what you were getting at, Cindy, to look at that specific?
Yeah, I just wanted the report, whatever was brought to us a couple years back, to be brought back again to the next council meeting. And then this issue be, I don't know, somehow flagged for pedestrian safety, but we haven't really made a motion on initiating anything yet on pedestrian safety, so I'm not. But let's just start. Why don't we just start with the bringing forth the report for next meeting, and then we'll go from there.
That was good. Cindy, you did cut out there, so your bandwidth is a bit narrow, so you may want to turn your camera on. I know that's a bit of a pain.
Yeah, you just get my mom's picture.
Actually, it's just showing the, we don't get her picture.
Oh, it's just showing GM. Oh, it's showing me her picture on my side, so I was a little worried. Okay. Yeah, let's just start with the report for next meeting, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, so I'll take that as a motion to present the traffic study from 2.5 years ago regarding the highway parking issue to next council agenda, correct?
Yeah.
Thank you. All in favor? Carrie?
I'm in favor.
Thank you. All right. Now, that's the 2 questions we had from the public. We will now add Councilor Martin's inquiry clarification.
Just asking for clarification to a motion that was made by Councillor Heather Thompson, that council reduce the STARS contribution from $3 per capita to $2 per capita as Diamond Valley's contribution, but it says the motion was defeated. So does that mean that we did not spend that money?
Go ahead.
We went with 3. I put forward that it should have been 2.
But it went for 3. Okay.
Which was the original.
Which was the original round.
Okay, it was the original amount requested. Okay, thank you.
That's it.
That's it.
Good one. Excellent. Thanks for about time you too. All right. All right, moving on. Statutory hearings. Thankfully, we have none because we don't want to be here till midnight. Delegations, Alberta Summer Games Committee, ARC project reports. I'm guessing less. Here's him on the corner. There he is. Yeah. Excellent.
I'd like to introduce Sandy and Brinket. So then back again. They're gonna do the presentation for the art project.
Hey,
That was nice.
wow.
Are we gonna auction that by any chance?
No.
Oh, my goodness, council gets first. That's cool.
As you know, the summer games are coming up. It's July. It's supposed to be short. 3 or 4 years ago, when we first came to
Black Diamond and asked for the Larks Summer Game. Thank you very much. We're really excited that you're part of it. And, in the games will be 14 events. And this painting was done by Scott Clark, where we just show the diversity of the athletes that participate in 14 sports and celebrates the culture legacy to the games. Here's summer games will take place now for some time. Diamond time, July 20th to 23rd, represented the town of Black Diamond, or Diamond Valley, sorry. In 2023, our first summer games for society.
Excellent.
I'm just going to also say that you're gonna have your torch relay, it'll be the first start of the purchase. And on July 19th in the morning. Come out to it, 10 o'clock, I think it was. And where's the start lesson?
Starting behind the curling rink. In the parking lot by the start line currently. Mountain bike track race.
And we'll be able to cheer them on too, so come out and support it. Thanks again for joining us with this. We're excited to have your mountain bike.
Excellent.
So I would like to introduce Russell. Russell is the president of the Okotoks Art Council. Our director of culture was not able to attend this evening, so Russell is standing in for Karis. He's going to just take a couple minutes to speak to the mural.
It's colors.
So this is what I call the mini wall.
Can you get your picture? You fine?
Pardon?
Can I get your picture?
Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm late at the time confused. When we set out to do the Legacy Art Project, we wanted to achieve three things. One, we wanted the mural to be engaging. We want people to be attracted to it and get their pictures taken with it. The second thing we wanted is that it really aligned with the spirit of the games and the theme of the games. And the third thing, and very importantly, we wanted to have a life beyond the games because it's a legacy art project. It will be around for many years to come. The big one located in the Oakbrook Rec Center. So we put a call out to artists throughout Alberta and had a tremendous response. And the jury had a very challenging time to pick the best submission. And the winning artist is named Scott Clark from Calgary. Now, Scott has many years experience in developing collaborative mural projects, over 25 in the last 20 years. He's been in magazines, he's been covered by the press throughout Alberta, and he's worked with Okotoks on a number of different occasions. And what you see before you is a wonderful depiction that's full of color and inclusivity and a sense of aspiration, because all the athletes that are coming for the games are aspiring to something great. And it captures all of that. And it will be hopefully the place that coaches and athletes and groups get their pictures taken throughout the games. And we're very proud to present you with the mini mural today. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you.
It's probably about the size of the wall behind me.
Right. Where is that located?
In the Okotoks Recreation.
So it's right in the building.
You betcha.
Okay, excellent. Well, that one is gonna go right where the king is supposed to be. So we'll leave it there as long as we can. So there you go. Yeah, I love it.
There's
Excellent.
also a player piano, it's painted the same, sits in front of the large one so that kids have an opportunity to go out and play the piano. It says Playmate on it.
Nice.
And if you take a look, there are places here where on the large wall, someone can actually, it's participatory, so you can put your leg up as though you were kicking a soccer ball
Oh, yeah.
or hitting something. So we tried to make this as, I guess, fun as it could be. And just an idea, on the back, he has earmarked when he started, what he did, how many hours. He's signed it on the back for the town.
Nice.
Awesome.
Very good.
Keep it up for a long time.
Yeah, well, I get my candle lacquer and I'll just kind of get her once over, right?
How many times? 4 or 5 times?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Could be.
the artist painted, so this is an exact replica.
Wow.
Perfect.
That's very nice. So is there anything you'd like us to?
Yeah, right now, let's just put it right here,
Okay, doke.
right there, because Cindy's probably going, I want to see it. Oh, and send it to her.
Veronica already did.
Like it right here. It'll be perfect. Awesome.
You don't need me in there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, lady. And keep up all the hard work, because I know it is not easy. We're keeping the pressure on. You betcha. All right, take care, drive safe. All right, well, that was very cool, guys.
Yeah.
All right, moving on, 6.2, Colts Crossing, Quantum, come on down. You are the next contestants on delegations for right.
She got it.
I got the wheel for you. Now, do we want to go PowerPoint or do we want to go hard copy? How do you want to go?
We've got
PowerPoint. Oh,
PowerPoint route, and so people could see at home, and then
okay, so we'll go this way. We'll take introductions. Cindy, again, if you have questions, you just say me next, because you're up in the corner and the PowerPoint's gonna take your space up. And we're gonna try and keep to a 15-20 minute window best we can.
Sure.
And yeah, let's high level, let's have some fun and get some information. So really appreciate you guys coming out, first of all, let me tell you that.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
You want to introduce yourself and then I'll introduce myself. We'll go from there.
sure, I'm Jessica Carpat. I'm the principal of planning at Quantum Place Developments, or Quantum Place Consulting. And I am the principal planner for the Colts Crossing conceptual scheme and land use revisitation.
I'm David Harvey. I'm representing the landowner. And I'll explain that to you in a couple of minutes here, but first of all, I wanted to thank you very much for the opportunity to come and talk to you. I think it's really important that early in this week, put a face to the project for you and give you an opportunity to ask whatever questions that you might have early in the game. I know Rod's got lots of questions and we've been working with Rod. We'll get to the finale, hopefully sometime over the summer, be able to start this project. The Colts Crossing lands have actually been owned by Vern Thornton for, I think, about 10 years. Vern, if you don't know him, is a bit of a character. He's my age. He's a construction equipment contractor, but he's got a passion for buying and owning land. In fact, I sometimes refer to him as a hoarder. But he buys typically rural land in Saskatchewan and Alberta, but once in a while that rural lands becomes part of a municipality, but Colts Crossing will be part of Diamond Valley. When that happens, then Vern calls me. Although I'm retired, and this is the first time I've worn long pants in 10 years. My previous life was that of a land developer and home builder for a large residential developer. And I've done that for 40 years, and I've built communities across Canada and the United States. So, and Vern's a personal friend of mine, so that's why he's called me and asked me to be the face to this project along with Jessica. The one thing we haven't done is built a strategy for this project, and we'll start doing that now. This is not an easy project. It has numerous land uses. It has access to Highway 7. It has lift stations. It has parks and open space.
has a variety of housing that will ultimately be here. And of course, what happens is the utilities never seem to drain the way that the land is shaped, but there's solutions to all of those sort of situations. I think because we haven't developed that strategy, I can't answer specific questions. But I think my experience I can provide some guidance as to what I think could happen if you have a particular question. And so I think best thing we do is just go through the project, how we developed the concept, and how we arrived at where we are.
Okay, perfect. That's good.
I just want to acknowledge that, similar to, this lovely mural, it's lovely. I like it quite a bit. And it's part of the community building that we're hoping to participate in as we move forward with the Coles Crossing application and kind of the community design and look and feel. So I kind of see the linkages really. So maybe next slide. So we're just going to go through just a little bit of background. It's really going to be a brief presentation. We're going to go through the vision a little bit of the context and the community engagement that we've already done. And then what we see as the moving forward or the next steps for the project. Next slide. So I know Rod has already taken you through a little bit of a presentation, so I'm not going to dwell on this too much. But a conceptual scheme is really a document that, or a plan that marries land use to a future subdivision. And so a conceptual scheme, similar to what is called an outline plan in Calgary, it really tries to tie those two pieces together. So at a high level, it talks about where are the roads going to be, what kind of uses will be placed on the ground, what kind of development forms would be imagined within those land use districts. And it's really about aligning that vision with your existing statutory policy documents like your municipal development plan. And so the other thing that really gives us that direction, other than the terms of reference that we formulated and got approved with the town of Black Diamond, so now merged Diamond Valley, is really Black Diamond's annexation. And so part of Black Diamond's annexation included Burns lands and had a vision for both a mixture of commercial and residential lands. And so our plan, as you'll see, includes those two items. Next slide. So what are we doing today? So really we're trying to introduce ourselves. We want to put a name to the face, or face the name. Everyone. We'd like to hear from you guys if you have any initial feedback, some questions that you need answered, or if you're hearing anything from your local residents, share that information with us so we can understand, what the temperature is out there. We're really seeking here to build community and to build something that in the long term we can be proud of. And so really, I think a plan that works for the town works for us. It needs to be mutual. It needs to work both ways. And so we've already submitted our application. We have a background rationale document. We've worked on a number with the plan for the entirety of the area. And then we've isolated the first phase that we'd like to move forward with land use on. And it's accompanied by the supporting documents, which is the transportation impact assessment. There'll be a servicing memo and preliminary servicing strategy report. There'll be a BIA or biophysical impact assessment, preliminary servicing strategy, which I believe is already mentioned, and then a geotechnical evaluation report. So just making sure that the lands are appropriate for what we're designating for. Next one. So Colts Crossing and Burns lands Colts Crossing, the entirety of the community is envisioned as the entirety of Burns lands, Burns Forest lands. And that is bounded by 6th Street or 1st Avenue and 144th Street. And then north, really, it's sort of the highway, but not. And then there's a acreage in the southeast quarter that is kind of that diagonal cutoff. So that is generally the boundary. The gray area is really where we're focusing on the conceptual scheme application, that first set of land use that we're working towards and outline or conceptual scheme application to move forward with. So our vision, what is this going to look like? So we've done a lot of public engagements. We've had a survey that was really well responded to. We've had some stakeholder sessions that we held. And so, you know, what was really, I think, a standout is that people wanted Diamond Valley to feel like Diamond Valley and to reflect the type of housing that that is kind of seen around here with a maybe more modern take. They also told us that parks and trails were very important to them, recreational offerings. And so this plan that we're going to show you in a moment has the combination of all of these elements, you know, responding to that community engagement. So the vision really is about, you know, trying to be reflective of some of the buildings or that we see within Diamond Valley and trying to bring that variety of housing that both hits the idea of affordability, making sure that there's a variety of different types of households that can be accommodated, also brings the idea of complete streets and walkability to Diamond Valley. So we're looking to build a complete community. Next slide. So of course, we're always cognizant of the existing statutory plan and the things, the documents that give us the direction in order to move forward. You know, the MVP does direct that, you know, that we should be providing a variety of housing types to accommodate the future population growth, that we should be looking to provide industrial and commercial opportunities, that we're making sure that we are responsible with the development that we propose, making sure that it's, you know, it meets those triple bottom line values. So fiscally, municipally, fiscally sustainable for the municipal. And so that will also be accompanied with a municipal fiscal impact assessment once we firm up that concept. We're also in alignment with the growth scenario and the joint advisory committee as described in the growth strategy. And so that continuation of commercial development along Highway 7, making use of that highway frontage and creating that consistency with, you know, employment uses. And also that continuation of the residential land and being cognizant of the plans that are already there for the Kaiser ASP area. So now the larger plan areas, next slide. So the larger plan area is 122 hectares. And for those of us that think in acres, that's 300, about 301 acres. And so, you know, you can see at the top, and maybe at the top, you could see that kind of pinkish color. Thank you for Ms. Cursor. Thank you. These are the industrial commercial flex lands that we're proposing for that economic growth potential for the town. And then you can see various stages of orange to kind of peach to yellow. And I would describe that as kind of the orange is this multi-family type parcels down to kind of the peach, which is that semi-detached type product, down to the yellow, which is the single detached product. And the multifamily product, when I identify that multifamily product, it's offering a transition from the commercial flex, industrial flex areas, transitioning into the community. It's some of it is laned, some of it is unlaned. It can offer a townhome product within these areas, or it can also within the node, you could see kind of like a barbell park the northern portion of the park, or to the right of it, is what I would call a multifamily node, where just recently we talked with the town about potentially encouraging some commercial use within that area. And opening up the potential maybe in the future to see if there could be some commercial, you know, maybe a convenience store or a coffee shop that people can gather at for the community. Something low scale and local. So that is the larger plan area. You can see a number of parks and storm ponds. Those are required to appropriately manage stormwater on the site. Next slide, please. Thank you. And so within that larger plan area, you can see that we've narrowed down the planning to what I would say the first phase of land use would be. And we've identified a portion of the commercial industrial flex area as part of our first phase, as well as some residential. And so the phasing that is proposed for the conceptual scheme is to essentially have kind of bookend the phases. So start with the commercial and the residential, and then work your way towards the middle. And some of that is done because of the way the servicing needs to be implemented. So we need to have this large stormwater pond in order to have this area drained appropriately, get it started for the initial phase 1 process, and then actually link in this entire area through servicing. And so the first phase in this conceptual scheme is actually gravity fed. And what we're trying to do when we think about how we stage the development is we're really trying to make the first phase as kind of, you know, unburdensome to the developer as possible, so we can create that momentum necessary to go on with phase 2 and phase 3. And so really we're trying to create that momentum, that capacity, and get the market to a point where we can look at absorbing a number of units per year. So the total housing units for the entire area, the anticipated is about 1,657, but the anticipated, the total for the total area is the anticipated is 1,657, and the total housing units for the conceptual scheme is about 392 units. Next slide.
Cool.
So I mentioned earlier in the presentation that we've done a preliminary community engagement. I just wanted to talk to you about some of the engagement themes that we heard within the survey and then within the stakeholder groups. So this is not a normal type of theming when you go out for engagement. So transportation and connectivity, town and community character, housing diversity and density, employment opportunities, and open space and recreational amenity were the top thematic areas for community feedback. And so when we receive that, we can respond to each and every one of these thematic areas and show you how that works within the plan area. And so I'm just going to take you through some of these items. Next slide, please. So town and community character, residents really communicated well that they really appreciate the current town character. They like the idea of the peaceful small town that has strong ties to the community, the overall environment. And so in our submission, our vision focuses on making sure that the craftsmanship and the rich history is integrated by reflecting that within some of the visionary kind of exemplars that we're showing within the architecture and within the type of character that we'd like to create. So naturalized parks, some of the imagery that we can go back to is really reflective of what we see and really creating that pathway and that recreation spaces and open spaces where people can connect and designing the community for that vibrancy where people will know their neighbors. And so there are some of those reflected within the community. Next slide. Also for this. So housing diversity and density. So we heard a variety of feedback here. So there were some that did not want to see high densities like Calgary. And it was very clear to us that there needed to be a good balance between what was offered and from a product perspective, because there were people who were very concerned about housing affordability and being able to stay within the town. But then on the other end, they didn't want to see the 15 unit acre subdivision that they see in Calgary. And so we really tried to balance this within the concept by making sure that there were maybe different product offerings, like a fee simple townhome that could be accommodated within this plan. So, and that we also, in later stages, look at some multifamily product that could be brought on when other absorption of multifamily product, like existing multifamily, kind of gets absorbed up in the town, and so that you have a different area where that could grow. So just thinking now what you have and then what you need in the future. We're really focusing on trying to provide that diversity within a density that is very appropriate for Diamond Valley. So I already said that there's single, there's semi-detached housing, townhomes, and some row house products, and then there will be some apartment product that would be offered in the future. So employment opportunities, next one, please. So employment opportunities, 55% of participants indicated the need for more employment opportunities. And with this commercial industrial flex, there is the ability to provide the services, jobs, as well as future employment opportunities. And so the district that we're envisioning here is flexible in a way that can accommodate those future commercial needs, a grocery store, but at the same time can also accommodate medical offices. It could accommodate some industrial uses. And so that, even through the design of the planned area, can be well accommodated. Next slide. So it's not uncommon to hear that people want to see pathways and trails within their community. In fact, it's number one. People want to be able to enjoy a park and a pathway and a trail. And some of the things that we're doing within the planned area is incorporating complete streets, incorporating pathways and trails, and making sure that the pedestrian connections through the community can be appropriate and allow people to enjoy walking their dog or walking over to school in a safe manner. And so when we talk about complete streets, sometimes people think, and sometimes the rhetoric out there is, it's not for all. And that's not the case. The case is a complete street accommodates all modes. And it's about having a safe space for all modes to be accommodated. And there doesn't mean that bikes are separated pathways on all streets. It means that there might be a separated pathway somewhere or accommodated within the street on certain bike routes or on certain pathways. And so it's just making sure that there is that space for all of these types of transportation modes. So there'll be a separate central open space, a community gathering area. There's some amenities that we'll look at as including playgrounds, trails, and pathways. Next slide. So transportation connectivity. I think I've already spoken to this, so I'm not going to just touch too much on this. We do have to complete a transportation impact assessment. The streets that we're looking at and the kind of connections that we're looking at can be accommodated with the type of vehicle traffic that we are envisioning and with very little upgrades. But any upgrades would be developer paid. Next one. So moving forward, we're really, I have to say, I'm really enjoying working with Rod, and I'm sad that he'll be not with us
Yeah, you know.
in a little bit. It's been a fun time. Thank you. And just really been enjoying the process here, working with the town. And moving forward, we're hoping to receive comments very shortly, the finalized comments very shortly on the conceptual scheme and land use application. And we hope to be working on revising the plan over the summer, and then hopefully resubmitting in the fall, and also doing some engagement once again in the fall. And then hopefully back in front of you kind folks in the late fall, maybe sometime in October or November, depending on how we do.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Councilor. Hey, there's one.
So I don't know if this will be covered in your transportation impact assessments, but please help, please help me out. Considering the anticipated increase in traffic flow along Highway 7 resulting from your new development, would Quantum be open to covering part or full cost of the associated installation of traffic lights along Highway 7?
So through the chair, Councilor Martin, so the TIA does identify the need for the traffic lights. And that would be, in my imagination, a developer expense as a result of the development.
Oh, okay.
Jonathan?
I don't really have any questions for your presentation this evening. I'm excited about the potential that this provides for the town as we grow. I love how you have termed diverse housing. That's been a comment of ours for quite some time, is we need that diverse housing. So one of the things that I did bring forward within that diverse housing, I'd like to see is a section or a percentage of the housing for accessibility as well, to meet our seniors, but also those within our community who may have mobility issues. I know that's been something, in the most recent campaign we had last November, is I heard among the community there, even though it's a smaller community that has that accessibility requirement, there is a need for that. And I know some more progressive communities are really making sure that new developments have that. So that would be my initial feedback. I'd like to see that option provided.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
My apologies.
No, good. Good.
That's great. That's so in a kind of a land use and kind of conceptual scheme application, generally accessible housing is kind of a very detailed application. And so usually we deal with accessible housing or accessibility of homes at the point of a development permit application. And so I would imagine that, that there would be some way to work that in there, but point taken. Yeah, please.
Whatever.
I have a couple of notes, but I don't want to monopolize the thing. Your public engagement in the early fall, what would that look like?
Great, the chair to Councilor Weaver. That's great. We're thinking some open houses, given kind of we're out of COVID, thinking that they'll have to be in person. So, if you have any suggestions as to where you'd like us to hold them, we're open to those suggestions.
Based on experience, will never be correct.
FYI.
FYI, I get that. I'm used to that.
I'll let everyone else go and I'll pick up.
I'll hop up to Cindy. Cindy, did you have any comments? And then I'll go to Heather.
Just one quick one. I don't know if you can answer this at this point or not, but what kind of lot widths are you anticipating in your single family area?
Through the chair.
Holiday.
To Councillor Holiday. We have a variety of lot widths that we're considering. I think, sorry, it's not coming to me.
As to the widths.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's one of those questions I really can't answer. It's when we get down to the whole building. What does the price point have to be? And therefore, what does the lot width need to be to go into that price point? We're not actually going to be building the homes, it'll be home builders, so they'll have some input into that as well. But yeah, I think we're.
So I have like the land use districts kind of generalizations.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
So we have some minimum lot widths that we're looking at, depending on whether we're proposing the R2N type versus like we have type 1 and type 2. And so the 7.6 meters wide versus a 6 meter wide lot, depending on, it could be a semi sharing a 6 and a 6, right? We have and at times we're looking at townhomes too, so there's a variety there. So 7.6 is about a 50-foot lot. The smaller is the 6, so that's about a 36-foot lot. So we're looking at a variety of lots.
Only question.
Okay, good. Holiday, anything else?
Yeah, no, I'm just asking because, the name Colts Crossing, they talk in the history book about kids going up to look for wild horses in the area, and you kind of imagine that rural character. So the housing looks like it. I'm just worried about making sure the community feels not packed in like Calgary, but I think you've heard that loud and clear.
Thank you.
Heather.
Yeah, I don't really have any questions either. It's really. I'm glad to see that there is that in the actual plan, basically phase 1. And then of course the connectivity is really. So.
Yeah, you go into.
Yeah, one really quick question. You have the time frame here, the conceptual plan. We get the land use designation completed. In a perfect world, what are you, once phase 1 gets approved, when can we expect to see shovels in the ground?
So I think the process after that is subdivision, correct? Which would be another similar 4 to 6 month process. That takes us into spring of next year. I think that would be the earliest that this project could start, would be after the frost is out of the ground. Yeah, that's right. I mean, this is, as I say, it's a bit of a complicated project. It requires certainty on the amount of housing that can be built through this project.
My questions / my comments, if I could. So, of course, we just finished election 7 months ago. Everyone up here and those that are attending ran on platforms of green space, planning appropriately for our future. One of the main goals of amalgamation, one of the key pins, I would say, is that as we grow, we plan properly so that there wasn't going to be a development being done in Black Diamond that wasn't aligning with Turner Valley. And then by the time you get to quarter section touching, you got one road over here and one coming over here. So this is a very large step for us. And I really want to just stress some of the key points that council ran on platforms of pathways and connectivity, green space accessibility. Absolutely. That gives the feel of your community. I lived in Crystal Shores in Okotoks. There was never a better spot to walk your dog, meet your neighbors, go for just a brisk walk, let the kids play, and or, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Throw football, frisbee, whatever. Perfect connectivity, right? So we really want to stress that that is important, and you've got some great ponds in there. I could see some great things happening there. We have the water in our reservoirs to support this development. We also want to make sure that we're getting water off the properties and everything's drained properly, so I can understand where you're coming from there. It is a difficult setup. Wider roads is something that when I went through some of the spec sheets, one of the things I hate about Calgary, not many things I do hate about Calgary, but one is when you get into some of these new neighborhoods, you get choked out. And you heard it here today from residents. We already have some of those spots in town that were built under the CMRB kind of platform of 8 acres per house or whatever it was at the time. But using Calgary road standards, we really shrunk. And now you're doing the hopscotch. And you're waiting for him to get out, her to get out. Which leads me to my one point on, there's only one exit strategy to the east on 144th Street West. So I wanted to just flag that one as maybe something to look at. Maybe there's an extra area or you have a reasoning that there's only one exit to the east. Because you're talking about putting 5,000 people into there, essentially, or 2,500. But you only have one exit to the east. So just some of those roadways, maybe there's an extra one. If there's an accident there, everything chokes out. That's kind of my point, right? So if you go into Calgary and you get stuck on that one road, stressful, right? So having the ability to circumvent some of that is, you know, small town living. Oh, that road jammed, gonna hang a left here, go up 3 blocks and then gonna exit stage left. So that's something that I would just point out as something that could be looked at. Commercially, I know one thing that we did kind of say was, yeah, a little bit of commercial base near that school, future school, probably a great idea. It would be a prime opportunity to have something for students to get to and spend some money. So I think there's a great opportunity there. Otherwise, I am so excited about this project. Residents are always asking where are we at, when's it coming, what's it going to look like, and so on. So there's a lot of hype in town about what this is going to look like. And I know that we're all excited to see Phelps and Grant, thus Phelps Gordon's comment. It's going to be my question to you as well. But I know how much planning goes into this, so we're willing to work with you all steps of the way for sure. Heather, wrap up questions or Veronica?
No, I would mention water again. We currently have enough water. But the conditions, of course, as we all know, are changing. So we've been talking regionally about some communities that are quite literally out of water in the region. So we're going to have to be cautious when we move forward with development of this size that we water start using. So that's just something I'd like to do.
I promised Rob would ask this question.
Oh, can I just maybe respond?
Sure.
That's permission. To Councillor Thompson. When we go forward with planning for the communities, we have kind of an initial plan that, you know, council can adopt kind of as a through council motion. And then as we go forward with phases, what we would be doing is submitting supporting studies for the next conceptual scheme that would make sure that we align with the servicing strategy and with existing capacities. So each time we come forward with a phase, there's some due diligence that council can have purview over before they make another land use approval. And so I just wanted to give you some certainty or some clarity on how that process would work to make sure that water security for the town of Diamond Valley is addressed.
Great, thank you. Yeah, as we all know that we're at the headwaters of the Sheep River. And before we got all this rain and the snow in the mountains, I have never seen that Sheep River that low. And I've lived out here most of my life, so, and I know it's a concern of the whole region. And so we're gonna have to keep our eye on the ball there for sure.
Wrong question. Not really.
You can ask him privately afterwards.
Yeah, you can ask us after. We'll give you that.
We'll get your answer.
Text it to Veronica quick.
Yeah. Text us. It's not as frivolous than the water question, but the town of Black Diamond had a naming policy, which the town never got to use. And it's been sort of ported to the town of Diamond Valley. Are you married to the name Colts Crossing?
Oh, no. We call it David.
This is a deal breaker here.
Yeah.
So if I could answer that.
Absolutely.
The landowner chose the name. And he's married to it.
I would like to offer an English lesson.
Sure.
The way it's written, it's Colts Crossing, as in more than one colt is crossing, so it's caution. That's correct. You don't want it to be apostrophe or,
I think that's the working,
okay,
so it could morph into something different.
okay.
I'm not suggesting as a name, but
As a grammatical.
I can give you 3 different versions on what I think Colts Crossing is. Is it where they're crossing, or is it a crosswalk where they could cross? Or is it?
I think it's caution, Colts Crossing.
You're crossing his cold.
Yes, caution.
If you'd like to put that forward as
I'm
an
gonna-
apostrophe.
Yes.
You
that's
would
what my
like
serious
no
question.
apostrophe?
No, it currently is.
It's no
apostrophe.
apostrophe.
Oh, okay.
So I just want to know, is it one young horse? Or several young horses, or is it someone named Colt? It's a whole family of them? I need to know that.
Very
Oh,
interesting.
That's how we go. It gets sticky from here in.
That's awesome.
Councilor Merton.
You have, and I believe in it's phase 3, where you have a portion of the land set aside for school. Can this be changed to have a fire hall or a recreation center?
So I think the short answer through the chair. For Martin, I think the short answer is yes. So I believe that municipal reserve lands can be used for multiple municipal purposes. They can be a joint use site. And the other question that I think, or that the other comment we have received from circulation referees is that can the school site come earlier? So these are circulation comments that we're working through with the town. Rod, and he's going to be providing final direction.
It has the potential to be a P3.
Well, so we as developers would provide the land. The capital cost of the school is done by
Alberta Education.
Alberta Education.
The infrastructure is responsible by the municipality. School is Alberta Education, but
Fire
the
hall.
main, the fire hall.
The fire hall would be normally collected and distributed through levies. And so it would be the
Alberta Recreation Center.
Recreation is something we haven't actually touched on.
Where you get it working on for P3.
I'm not sure, maybe Rod has some comments to offer here on how the capital costs are facilitated for fire halls.
Well, it's not in our levy, so. It's there, it's not in our levy currently, so, fire hall just have to be.
Yeah. How about a recreation center? Maybe you could partner with Quantum or something like that.
It's something we're working on with our new fee structure, right? So.
So at the moment, Quantum is just, my apologies, Quantum is only the planning consulting firm facilitating the application. And so it's something that we can talk to the developer.
But I'm very pleased that you addressed it to Quantum and not to me.
Last one, and then we're gonna call it a day. So coming down Highway 7, the first thing you're gonna see when you take that S turn is a giant block of commercial pink land, as you say. Now you can have that go one of two ways. You can have a trash can load of sea cans. And that's your first take of, oh, the new Diamond Valley is a scrapyard. Or, oh, that's nice. I see an IGA, I see a Sobeys, I see an XYZ. Architectural control wise, do you have anything that's gonna be in this document that says you can't have X, Y, and Z in that commercial thing that would present an absolute atrocious view coming around, for example?
If I could answer that. Typically, it would be in this document.
Okay.
As a developer, we would be putting architectural guidelines in place for commercial and for residential. The last thing we would want to do is create an eyesore at the entry and then try to market homes behind it. That would be very negative for us. So,
Good, so you're well aware. Okay, good, that's what I wanted to hear. We're gonna leave that at that because there's lots more time for us to talk, so I appreciate you trying to keep the 15 minutes, but no one ever does. No, so don't feel bad.
Okay.
Really appreciate you guys coming out, so let's keep on the tools. We'll have a new rod at some point. Okay, and you'll have to meet the new rod, right? And he'll be known as New Rod or Sheep, right?
I really strong.
Rod-ex.
Yes. There you go. All right, thank you very much. Thank you. If there's any staff who don't need to stick around for the rest of the meeting, feel free to leave, but
I was gonna say to Jessica, I noticed on your LinkedIn that you're part of the municipal planners, and you know of anybody who is looking for an opportunity
to be a rod-ass.
To be a rod-ex.
Send them our way.
I will, absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right, take care, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So Laura's looking at these. All right, can I get a motion to accept for information? Thank you, Councillor Gordon. All in favor? Bam, thank you. 7.1, community support policy fund policy. Yeah, sure, absolutely. We'll take 3 minutes. We're gonna get reconvened here at 8:03. Thank you for taking that little break, everyone. Community support fund policy, 7.1. We went over this at Cal, I believe. Minik, if you just want to hit the high points, we will get a motion on the floor.
Good evening, council. Thank you for the opportunity. As you recall, there were several points that were brought to my attention in terms of making some changes to this particular policy. I've highlighted anything that was changed in red, and if it was to be deleted, then it's been essentially lined out. So you'll see those that were replaced, and any replacement is highlighted in yellow. So if you'd like, I can certainly go through them, or if you've had a chance to actually look at them and take a moment just to review and then provide any questions that you may have. The application dates, I thought maybe something that you wanted to comment on. Just thinking that working on that quarterly basis, but also providing that early start so that for those that may have missed out on that later previous year application, then we'd be able to take a look at it early enough in January to be able to get the funding to them if they were eligible and approved. Aside from that, there were a couple of other changes certainly to the content of the forms, and then I split them out between the special events and then the fundraising initiatives. While those are both contained within the policy, I separated out the application form, so it's a little bit less complicated, less detail that's required for the funding initiative. For the fundraising initiative, sorry.
You, Heather.
I think you caught everything that we talked about. I only have a couple. Or a question. So if we pass this policy tonight, is, and it's June the 30th for the next application. We can consider those applications.
Absolutely.
Okay, that was just.
If I may through the chair, that's an excellent question. I thought about that as well. I would request, really for my own, convenience, I suppose, and to give me a little bit of time would be to extend that out to probably July 15th.
Great. And then my other suggestion would be the appendices. The headers and all of the appendices be the same as the appendices B. They're all different. Or the top of the, yeah, appendix B. Is one that.
Like,
So the procedure, the top of it, appendix A, they could all be the same. Because that appendix A doesn't even have the logo on it. And then appendix B does, and then appendix C does. Appendix D doesn't. So just for consistency. That's all.
that's a good catch. Good catch. There's really good on there. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Cindy, any comment?
Yeah, it's just adding to Heather, the schedule, it says schedule sheet C, it should be appendix C, but there's some lines that aren't on that schedule C, appendix C, that it's cut off. It's like the fifth or sixth, it says, has the organization been registered in or in operation for at least one? And then I think it's meant to go down into the next. So just check your formatting on your text boxes.
Yeah.
Because it's cutting off, and it's cutting off some words.
That's about it.
But I just want to say thanks for taking, yeah, all the feedback that we gave you at the committee of the whole, and looking forward to having this in place.
Excellent, good catch. Hazel.
Just one, just more asking for clarification. Item number 6.5. That applicants must provide recognition, the town of Diamond Valley contribution to the project as outlined by the community services manager. Does that refer also back to the branding agreement?
Thank you for the question, Councilor Martin, through the chair. Yes, what we're trying to do is obligate those that are receiving funding from the town to recognize the town's contribution, and that it should be in line with the branding guidelines, which means that we would be supplying them with the logo for any of the promotions that they were doing, where it seems to be appropriate. I mean, for some of the smaller organizations that, you know, the projects are maybe not as, they don't have a lot of budget. I certainly don't want them taking out an ad in the newspaper and spending money on that, whereby really they could just add it in other ways, their social media, what have you.
So would you say by the branding guidelines as opposed to?
Maybe I can clean that up a little bit, just to simplify it. And yes, so instead of saying according to the manager, refer back to a guideline as such, sure.
Does that make sense?
Sure does.
And the application deadline on page 21 are different than on page 24.
Okay, noted.
But we, to clarify there, but the agreement would be to go back to the original deadlines that were just suggested.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's all I have. Thanks for me.
Excellent. Thanks for those little thoughts. Okay. Then I think we can take a motion as amended. And then, Monique, you could just update us on the slight update change, in the wording, and that'll be fine. All right, I'm gonna take a motion for that. We can get this one off the beat. Thank you, Heather.
Okay, so the council accept the community support grant policy as amended.
Good, Cindy? Excellent. All right, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you.
Just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, just point of clarity, do we want to add the extra motion to extend June 30th deadline till? Should that be by motion, just to make sure? This here? Yeah,
I'll take that.
what date would administration prefer? Because June 15th is only 2 weeks, right? So why don't we, I would propose the end of June or the end of July. Because we're going through Canada Day, so much is going on. So my preference would be to the, what is it, July 31st? Yeah, Monday or 31st. That would be my motion. 31st.
Yep, that'd be great. All in favor? There you go. Bryn, you can use that, or Nick, you can use that to add your info as to support reignite the community support policy. Thank you. So, okay, moving on to action item 8.1. So this was sanitary dump stations. I brought this forward. I wanted to bring it as a notice of motion. I have a huge background of information on it for you. However, I think it's easier just to have a frank conversation about this. I asked Craig a few questions, but recently we had to stop work order out, which affected some of our businesses in the area. Those businesses contacted the town, they contacted Craig, they contacted myself in regards to sandy dump stations. In particular, our Foothills Lions Club has to spend, just to give you context of why I wanted to bring this forward. They are presently spending approximately $535 to take a 3,000 gallon load of sewage and truck it into Calgary. We have had in the past the ability to put it into our own lagoon system, but we had to stop that due to other reasons. There is an opportunity here. The closest dump stations right now are Cochrane and Calgary. Cochrane is $170 a load. Calgary is $235. Then you have your trucking fees and your gas. So you can see how quickly it comes up to $500 a load. This is a prime opportunity where we have an upgrade going into our West End system, where we have the potential to have a business case built, that we can have our own sanitation dump station, just like Cochrane and just like Calgary. We have an industry in southern Alberta that requires this service. And with the fuel charges going where they're going, we would be primed to make some revenue. So I'm suggesting that we set some direction to Public Works through Bryn to investigate a business case and have that brought back to council when it's ready, when he's done the homework and done some analysis. So that we can make a decision as to if this is something that we want to put some dollars towards. Does that make sense?
Great idea.
Sounds like it's a motion, but I think we should move forward.
I don't know.
And make a motion on
Yeah, I want to make sure everyone
building a business.
has a clear understanding of what I'm proposing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she got it clear as mud. Heather.
Just guidelines for business. Offer stamps.
Sure.
Part of the slide flat out. So. This isn't a panic thing, I would say.
I don't think it's a panic thing, but we can ask Craig his thoughts. He's had his head wrapped around something of this nature for the last few months anyway, because of our West End issues and our upgrades. So Craig, would you like to come?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Green. I want to say that this is straightforward, but as Councillor Thompson alluded to, there's a lot on our plates at the moment. It seems probably prudent that I try to have this for next budget season. But, say, if I could have till the end of September, that might be.
Oh, yes, absolutely. No, I think you're, oh, sorry, go ahead, Heather.
I just, Craig, move forward with this, if we all agree that we move forward with it. We have to have the new upgrades done to move forward.
This is an interesting question, Councillor Thompson, through the chair, to implement a commercial septic station. The Alberta regulations are very specific. It's very detailed, it's pretty straightforward. It's not really that complicated because it's outlined. It's not something we're building from scratch. They exist. The requirements and the specs are there. It comes down to funding and how we manage it. So those are the big pieces. Because once you install a commercial septic, obviously you're going to have hours of service that you're going to need staff to manage. So there's a number of pieces, not to mention all the for that.
Yes, please, absolutely.
So, just directly to Craig, and I don't know the answer to this either, but with everything that we've had with the permitting around our current West End project, would we, and Rod's not here as well to answer that question, would it require us to go back through that exercise again? And if that's the case now, would we have some of those issues that presented us with through the West End project, would they resurface once again? If we're gonna be putting it on those lands?
Yeah, I agree. I would absolutely caution that we wouldn't want to do anything public in this regard until we understand the requirements. I would suggest that this would not go through this capital project. It would be a standalone because I don't know the terms of the current funding model would accommodate this addition. Nor do I know what the cost of this facility is going to cost at this moment. The biggest challenge is obviously it would likely be that the septic station would be on current West End lands, but not necessarily. It could go on another piece of commercial property. The downside to selecting a different location is there are setbacks for commercial septic from residential lands and commercial spaces. So anywhere we do install this septic facility does have some logistical challenges if it's not down in West End. So lots to consider.
Okay. Johnson, comment?
Yeah.
Then we'll.
I love this potentiality. I mean, we've been looking at potential revenue streams. This sounds like it has great potential. Question I do have, if I may, to the chairs, as asked Craig, you mentioned potential staffing needs and whatnot, and the different hours of operation. I've not done a lot of research on that, but what are the potential to have a automated system where there's a keyless entry? We have contracts with those who are dumping, they have access, where that would greatly reduce the manpower required, and it's free to use at a specific, basically because they have keyless entry.
Comes to Gordon, that's another really good question through the chair. So I would hazard against a keyless entry per se. I would probably want to go more within hours of operation. We can have a digital access, so that's those contractors register with our utility clerk, for example. And they would be given an access code they would enter. We would have to have a monitoring or a computer station there that they'd be able to enter their data, because it is required that they submit for every load that is on their truck. It is required for them to leave that information or supply that information. For every customer that they've picked up from that's on that truck, their contact information, suspected materials in that truck. And then the driver and truck and company information has to be downloaded, as well as the town has to maintain that information for up to upwards of 7 years.
Okay.
And then we have some material testing requirements so that we can ensure that the materials coming out of the truck and into the holding tank aren't over strength or aren't toxic. And then there has to be a dilution station so that that material's diluted if deemed appropriate, and then it gets pumped into the unit. So there's a lot of pieces to this. So I would hazard to say that we make this a fully automated arrangement, because with anything that's not supervised, there's far too many opportunities for people to find workarounds.
I'm sure that'll be part of business case 70%, so looking forward to it. Thank you. I'll take a motion
To add this to the priorities for business case for budget. We have a motion from Wyber to add sanitary dump stations as a priority business case analysis for budget 2023-24. Anything else on that? Just let's see what we have in front of us. All in favor? Excellent, thank you. And just as a point of clarity, I'm gonna go to maybe. Does West End need to approve something of this nature as the sewage commission?
Yeah.
Through the chair, Mayor Crane, absolutely, I believe currently West End is the owner of the facility and manages.
So if anyone were to say, I want to do this, they need to come to West End to say, here's our idea, here's our plan. X, Y, and Z. Same way Colts Crossing was circulated to West End to say, here's our future vision. Is this something that you can capacity wise handle? We had to on West End say,
that's an interesting conundrum. I think if it was going to go on West End land, absolutely, we have to go through West End. But town owns the distribution system, so I believe if the town decided we wanted to install a septic station or another RV site, that would come down to town and then identifying a piece of property that would be suitable for such a facility. So that's a two-part answer, I would suspect.
Yeah, excellent. I think we'll leave it at that for now. Okay. Thank you for the support and thank you for hearing me out. Submission of amalgamation report for award recognition, CAO Middleton.
So thank you, Mayor Crane and council. So this particular RFP is kind of a bit of a brainchild between Verna and I. I think from an organizational perspective, feel that there is an opportunity for the town, not only administration, but council and some of the parties that we've worked with through the amalgamation process to submit, and there's a number of avenues in order that we can submit our document that was prepared for the amalgamation to different bodies that have awards. And it's an opportunity for the town to get some recognition. Both communities worked extremely hard on this, both administration and councils. So we would like to just get the support of council in order to move this initiative forward, and when we do have the opportunity to submit this particular work, we can submit it through some of the parties we've worked with, and we would like the opportunity to move this particular initiative forward with the support of council.
Excellent.
Well, if it's emotional, question.
We'll take a motion then.
The council support administration submitting applications for acknowledgement on the amalgamation report Blackdown and Turner Valley submitted to municipal affairs on September 14th, 2021.
Where can I go?
So under background, administration was approached by a consultant. Can I ask which consultant?
We were approached through the chair by our consultant, Maven.
They would like recognition for their work.
True. All right.
I may comment through the chair. I mean, granted, I think there is an opportunity for Maven, but I think there's an opportunity for all of us who submitted the information for that report. It wasn't a solo initiative. And certainly the collaboration between both sides of this, no side could have done it on their own. So, yes, I agree, there's opportunity for Maven, but there's also opportunity for all of us having gone through this exercise to, be able to, and everyone contributed to it. So I think there's a win-win for both sides on this.
Excellent. Any further comments? Cindy?
Yeah, I would think our HR firm needs a special mention in this as well. And I'd appreciate if it's a consultant submitting an application, I think the town needs to approve it before it goes in.
Yeah.
Or am I reading it wrong? Is the town submitting it or is the consultant submitting it?
So if I may, through the chair, we work with the consultant to submit the application. And if I may, with respect to our HR firm, because of the nature of these particular awards, we have talked with our HR firm, and when there are awards that come up with some of the projects that they worked on, we have had dialogue over, this would be a great opportunity for you as well. So with these particular awards, it's more focused on the nature of the work that was done pre-amalgamation, not post-amalgamation.
Okay, good point. Go ahead.
These would be like the awards of excellence through municipal affairs, et cetera. Yeah.
Jonathan, and then we'll.
No, and I think that we,
Got another comment.
no, Cindy can follow up.
Go ahead, follow up.
Yeah, I know when we had our municipal leaders caucus, they mentioned AB Munis having awards that are, I think, due June 30th, which I know is a tight turnaround, but yeah, I think the dedicated senior municipal team award would be from AB Munis is something that our town administration deserves.
Thank you. That's fair.
Yeah, I'm trying to best word how I want to word this, right? I can see the benefit for the consultant winning this award. It's prestigious, there's some what's that word? Prestige attached to that. It's like a feather in their cap. What is the benefit for the town? Like a tangible benefit. Like that we have an award on the plaque, a plaque on the wall. I don't want Heather as a counselor to answer. I want our admin to answer.
Who's going to answer?
So if I may address the question through the chair, Councillor Gordon. The reality is that the consultant could not have done the work without all of us contributing to it. And I would expect they would know that that's the case. So I think it gives us recognition as a community that we've achieved something that no other community or very few communities have achieved. And yes, it does give the consultant some recognition, but I think they were involved in the process just as much as all of us were involved in the process. So there's no other way that the community can achieve any recognition without having the consultants somewhat involved in this process.
Question would be through the CAO, maybe Verna. The awards for excellence, I don't think that consultants can actually submit those. It would have to be submitted by the municipality, I believe. So maybe an honorable mention for the consultants would be in that submission. I don't know, but it would be, I'd suggest those awards. There's different categories.
Yeah.
And so that would have to be looked at by admin and then maybe brought back to council to. But if it's a June 30th deadline for some of those awards, because you get recognition if you're picked at Alberta Uni's convention, right?
Yes, and so, I can't remember the name of the one organization that came to her from her professional life. API.
Yes, which we've had an award through them before with Urban, I believe.
And then she noted there were others, and so we had a meeting with her online and we looked at the forms and they're almost identical. And so she offered to help to complete the forms for us, and then like not to submit them, we would have to do that for sure.
Thank you.
All right, any further comments? Cindy?
Yeah, I had meant to send this out earlier, but this one that closes on June 30th, it's the Dedicated Senior Team Award through Alberta Munis. And I know that the ones that made this amalgamation possible are our senior management. And they need a resolution in council. But I don't know if Verna and Corinne could get this filled out with us. It's like a 2-pager, doesn't look too hard, but I'd like to leave it open for the other awards. I'm happy for anyone to submit whatever applications for any of them, but this one specifically would need a council nomination.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna go down to Hazel and then we'll make sure to address that.
Oh,
No, I thought that's how you.
no, I'm just waiting for him.
Oh, okay.
So did I understand Cindy right? The one she has needs a specific motion, like not this one here.
No, this would be a separate one.
Cindy, could you just reiterate what your one was that you're reading off of there?
Yeah, it's the Certified Local Government Manager Society or Society of Local Government Managers with Alberta Munis. It's called the Dedicated Senior Team Award. And yeah, when I think of our senior team through amalgamation, it just says it needs to be approved by a resolution of council. I'm looking at it through the AB Muni site. But yeah, it says award submissions are, well, they say June 30th, 2022, and it's 2023. So maybe the deadlines are, yeah, the AB Muni sometimes doesn't update their website. It's under awards. But it's one that I think that we should look into. And if we could make a motion, council to approve it if we're able to get an application, and I don't know how we can do it, but I don't know how I got to the site. I think I just typed in awards, AB Munis awards, and it came up. I know they mentioned it at, you guys were there at the summer government meetings or municipal leaders. Do you remember when they said the deadline was?
Yeah, end of this month.
30th, the fire.
It is.
I'm gonna go to Heather for the moment, Cindy, while Verna punches some stuff in. We'll go ahead. Heather.
June 30th. The motion that we put forward because it says submitting applications,
That's what I'm asking. Does it
So
cover
it's
it or
covered.
does it need this?
all of them that you would submit for.
This might actually, I'm wondering, we'll see with the verbiage, but if it's the way Cindy says, potentially, it could say you need to include the motion on the application.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah, it
this.
needs a date.
What needs a date?
It was. It's in our email.
It was. I saw.
It was.
Okay, well, we're gonna vote on the motion that's in front of us, because we've already debated it and now we're gone past it. So we're gonna get this one out of the way that Heather made for this specific ask, which is the council support administration submitting applications for acknowledgement on the amalgamation report Black Diamond Turner Valley submitted to municipal affairs September 14th, 2021. Okay.
Back up there, at the top, it says something about the resolution, not the first page. Are we just on that one?
Yeah, the date says June 16th, that we might be out of luck.
So we're gonna go to that one after we vote on this one. We're gonna vote on this one now, if everyone is good with Heather's motion. All right, any further comment on the Heather motion? All in favor? And we're good there. Okay, now let's continue with what's on screen as an additional follow-up.
That's June 30th.
Yeah, you can keep going the other way, Ernest, to where we're filling it in.
The application form.
Yeah.
It says June 16th.
Yeah, but on the application form, at the very top, it says the date. At the next page, please. Right, oh, I guess it's the next page, because we have to indicate who. Right there, it says the approved by resolution of council, date of council. So potentially, the motion we just made may cover that.
Let's make this motion and then send it forward. As is, which is fill in the blank, right?
If I could, so this one, even though it's being offered through 80 Munis, is actually being cited by the SLGM, and they've probably held their meeting. That's why their date is here,
Oh, right,
because it's a different organization.
so we've missed the date.
Yeah, but you know what? It's government bureaucracy.
No, the professional association.
So they don't.
That's too bad.
The profession.
That would have been ideal. I like that one.
I still said we send it with apology.
No, it says right there at the bottom in italics, no late submissions accepted.
Well.
Even for very.
Cindy, you didn't hear that. Veronica said, no late submissions accepted, even for Barry Crane. It's in italics.
Well, we could make the motion to do it for next year and they could be really impressed with how early we made the motion.
We gotta send it and say, for next year's consideration. For Shaw. Oh, that's funny. Shaw, I see you. Could see that. I missed that. We saw it. You know what I mean? No, well.
I'm not going to comment because I belong to this association and we're live.
Okay, we'll leave.
That's fine.
Okay, thanks for the homework on that, Cindy. We definitely dropped the ball by a couple of days here. Yeah. Okay, shall we move on? We shall. Appointment of the EDAC members. We have, Veronica, Council Clever. Yes, ma'am.
Read this thing.
You betcha.
The council appoint David Farren, Mark Mueller, Tara Member, Lee Wagstaff as members at large for the Economic Development Advisory Committee with terms expiring January 2025. And appoint Jessica Parkin Fleming, Lee Bates, Barb Hasenfeld, and Julia Reimer as members at large on the Economic Development Advisory Committee with terms expiring in January 2026.
Excellent. Any comments?
Sounds good to me.
Before we move off of the vote on this, I will make comment that I talked to Mr. David Harvey. And he asked me if our Economic Development Committee had any high-flying marketable keynotes that they could use in their marketing program. I guess.
Did you send it in the website and investment guide? Because I do see that they're talking about craftsmanship of the Diamond Valley and their amazing architecture. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Are you trying to recreate skid shacks? Like, don't say that.
Which is why I think they should talk to you. So I told him that
Not me specifically.
we had two counselors on that committee and that your strat plan was brought forward in the last couple of months and you're very active and definitely get you guys in touch. Okay, so
So email introductions.
will do. Okay, that being said, no further comments. All in favor? Great. And thank you to those volunteers. Thank you, Cindy, who stepped forward to sit on our Economic Development Committee. It is extremely important to their thriving community. So please continue in your depth. Okay, next we have, let me just click off that one too. Councilor inquiry 9.1 by Councilor Merton. And go ahead, Ms. Merton, and read your inquiry.
So my first one is the newsletter. And former council, Turner Valley councilors, please correct me if I'm wrong on this. In about 2019, the Turner Valley Council requested a one-page double-sided newsletter to be developed by administration. The newsletter was intended to accompany the bi-monthly utility statements, aimed to enhance communication with residents. It featured the mayor's message on one side and public notices and community events information on the opposite side, and it was encouraging community engagement and keeping residents informed. So I see that this letter is no longer going out.
Correct.
It isn't, okay.
Let me respond.
We're gonna get there.
We became extremely busy, as I've explained to council in the past, with events within the last month, and between that and the lack of availability of staff to be able to complete that task, it did not go out. So we tried to enhance that with website, social media, which I realized does not reach everybody, but regrettably, we just didn't have the time to be able to complete it. I have the draft as I'm looking at it right now. It should be printed tomorrow and it will be inserted into the utility bill. So it is meant to continue. What I would like to do, however, is review all of our communication to understand a little bit better what is needed, what can continue as a newsletter. Is it a duplication of the Diamond, which was an additional publication that we've adopted into the town of Diamond Valley that was previously for the town of Black Diamond, as well as a council connection corner that was posted initially twice monthly or after every council meeting with the Western Wheel, and we reduced that to bi-monthly as well. So that one we haven't really got as much traction on. We haven't heard, quite frankly, any comments in any way of people looking for the information, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be providing some sort of an additional communication means. That would be a printed copy.
Okay.
So hopefully that goes out tomorrow, and then we'll have extra, the utility bill, and we'll have extra copies in all of our public facilities.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for your book. And then my second one, and I think I know the answer to that one. It's the naming of the public park located off of Outlands. Is administration continuing to work with Stoney Nakoda in the naming of the public park? Is it Kiskawata or Wata Kisa? I'm not really too sure of the proper name. Okay, so what it is, okay. And has Stoney Nakoda provided administration with a different name or a name more appropriate to the area?
Thank you for the question, Councilor Martin. That's very timely because we are revisiting this as we speak. So, through Mayor Crane, I was looking at this because I've been speaking with Mr. Beaton with regard to what are we going to do here. So I counted up no fewer than 10 direct contacts. Formal letters, there were 6 of them, and there have been a series of emails that really are quite, beyond probably 12 or 15, and it's been no response. It's been a process that have been taken to the tribal council, but we've not received any kind of formal acknowledgement that there was a receipt of that. It's been directed to the Chief Dixon through Mayor Crane. And there've been some personal conversations along the way, at least 5 or 6 phone calls. The staff member that I was dealing with is no longer there. I've not been able to find a replacement, and I'm not sure where to reignite this particular discussion. So the question would be, we revert back to council. If this is something that you wish to pursue, then certainly we can revisit this and hopefully be able to get some sort of direction from the Stoney Dakota Nation. Or if it's something where you'd like to go back to public consultation for a name, I think the initial the initial purpose of this is still a very noble cause, and some one that is really quite worth trying to partner with the nation on. But we also need to be able to set some deadlines so that we can name our public park.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've followed down the avenue plenty. I've talking to Councillor Left-Handed there for him to bring it forward as well. I mean, we're busy. Amalgamation was busy. They are absolutely swamped as well. They lost their water treatment plant. So this is going to fall very low on their priorities and the resources. So, you know, I'm fine moving on. We had some ideas and we were looking for some feedback, and that's fine. But I think we should probably move on with the naming and come up with some criteria around what we want the name to be, and yeah, just move on. So how we want to do that, we don't have Parks and Rec. I was going to suggest that Parks and Rec take it and play with it, but essentially they would come to council anyway. But they're really the ones that should probably have a look at that and say, okay, what's our criteria, right? So, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Crane. I appreciate that perspective. My concern is always, you know, unintentionally being disrespectful. We have extended the invitation, and I just would hope that should we change course, we would be advising them in the most polite way and offering some other option that we could partner in the future to be able to work on that. If you recall, this was twofold. One was the name, and the second one was to look at interpretation of the area and then being able to symbolize that through signage.
Does anyone know how Okotoks got their TP transfer accomplished? Was it different?
So it's a lot of work.
I'm sure it was a lot of work.
Yeah. We could ask them. Even for West End, we actually had Blackfoot Siksika come out to West End, do the blessing on breaking of ground there, right? So there's different avenues, but we were going for the local knowledge. So.
Well, and I should add to that, they charged us a lot of money to come do that because it was part of the application process.
Right. So I think Brendan has contacts out there. Obviously, he's out there every day as well. So I don't feel like we would offend in any way. We have great personal relationships. Just acknowledging the fact you guys are busy. We get it. And it's been a year and a bit. So it's just an acknowledgement of how busy everything is. Maybe they change tune and say, yeah, we'll see what we can do. But in the meantime, what do we want to do for the naming? Because we do need to move on, and we do need to get some criteria based. We don't have any criteria right now, so we're not going to solve it right now. So why don't we just think on it, and maybe we'll bring it back in the next couple of meetings and start working on it.
And can we get a refresh with that lifetime inside naming policy? I don't remember if the parks.
Yes.
Don't.
Great idea.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, why don't we get that policy brought to our next agenda, and then we can get our heads wrapped around that policy. And that'll be a great spot for us to just start thinking. Go ahead, Hannah.
Next COW.
Yeah, next cow would be great.
Or in the fall.
And we could really just have it around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, all right, there you go. That's an easy avenue. Okay, continue on.
The Diamond Valley Parade sponsors, that was in regards to asking any of the oil companies. I think you addressed that a couple meetings back about TC Energy. That again, staff was at full capacity. For this time around.
If I may, Councillor Martin, just to expand on my answer at the time through the mayor. So that was partially it, but I also felt in reading the criteria that we were not eligible. So I know that TC Energy was here and they talked a lot about community investment, but if you take a look at the criteria and the deadlines, it didn't look like it was a great match. So it's one of those where I think that we would have had to form better relationships, perhaps, develop that little bit of knowledge and understanding maybe who to speak with so that we would get that attention. But seeing the types of programs and projects that they did support, we may have been considered. So yes, we were extremely busy, but it's not entirely why we didn't chase down those grants. And certainly we don't have any issue whatsoever with, applying to that type of company. And we certainly appreciate everything that they have offered to other groups. And they've been really great in terms of providing information to council and the community. So
Is this something that you look for New Year's Eve? If that is, that is an event the town is going to look at. Not only them, but Crescent Point as well.
Yep. Then we, just for your own information, I believe that this year was handed over to Boys and Girls Club for the sponsorship. We didn't want to have to compete with them. So that was the other issue as well. And I believe that they had tried to, that they contacted, I believe the number was over 50 organizations who try to obtain sponsorship. And we didn't end up with very much. We were going to sort of share the proceeds, if you will, just across the board because it's all one event now. But, so definitely there needs to be a bit of strategy involved and also maybe even a policy around what that looks like. What is council's expectation in terms of the time and effort to be able to reach out into the community and beyond those that are suppliers? Do we have the right to solicit from some of the suppliers that provide goods and services to the town? So I think there's a lot of thought that has to go into that. And certainly it's all for consideration, but is council looking for a portion, a large portion, a small portion of the budget to be something that's done through this type of granting?
That's probably a good conversation. Yeah. And then again, for Heritage Canada for the fireworks, that's probably something you'll be looking at for next year.
Yes. My short answer is absolutely, what was handed in file, and I really appreciate the information that it's provided with, but with no staff to do it, it was me.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess my last is sales, and we've already covered that.
But is the pool open?
Yeah. Tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock.
I don't know what the hours are.
Is that when the aquafit people come in?
Tomorrow they will be.
There you go. Okay, pool's open. I'm doing a Facebook.
Thank you very much, Minute, and thank you, Frank.
All right, thank you for the inquiries.
Councillor,
That'll be some good, yes, absolutely.
I believe, I don't want to speak out of turn, but as far as that new inquiries are concerned, I believe Mr. B has an update on the herbicide question.
Oh, yes, yeah.
We even did receive an email from a resident.
Sure.
This morning on that, so.
Yeah, fire away.
Yes, Councillor Gordon, through the mayor. So I know that this is always a sensitive subject for a good number of residents anywhere. It's not unique to us. I'd like to start by and I'll try to keep this brief. There's lots of information, this can go on forever, but I'll talk about what we do and why we do. So For starters, Alberta has the Alberta Weed Regulation Act, or the legislation, or Weed Act, sorry. And that Weed Act is very clear and very outlined on the weeds that are restricted, what are noxious, and what are a nuisance. And we are mandated not only as personal residents, but as municipalities to manage those weeds within our municipalities. And so there's three methods in which we're permitted and or directed to remove these weeds. First is physical, which is very obvious. We go out and pull those weeds. The second is mechanical. So mechanical means weed whacking, weeding, shears, whatever it takes. Again, it's got a physical component to it. And then lastly is chemical, which is a herbicide. Currently, Canada as a federal government and Alberta as a provincial government do not restrict the use of any of the particular heavily regulated herbicides that we do actively use. That's the regulation, or the Weed Act in a short. And with respect to the chemicals that are being applied, there are no restrictions on the particular chemicals that everyone's identified in their emails or websites, Facebook comments. However, those herbicides are heavily regulated. There's very particular rules, and it's very difficult to become a weed to get your applicator's license. And those mixtures and rates for dispersal are very regulated, as are all of the conditions to which you can apply, or where you can apply and how you apply those chemicals. When it comes to the town's, not a policy, but the town's approach, philosophy, currently Parks is committed to not using chemical anytime that they don't need to. So we only apply chemical in scenarios where areas of weed contamination are large, or large enough that it's not physical or ideal to go in and mechanically remove, or certainly physically remove. And for an example, if a 30-acre piece of town-owned property, which is typically naturally just a field, and a product, let's just say 7 square mile is moved in and taken over the field, it wouldn't make sense for us to mow the entire field for a couple of reasons. First of all, we would just spread weed. Secondly, it would look horrible if we just mowed a massive field for whatever reasons, just to get rid of weeds. So in those scenarios, we might go out and we spray a herbicide to contain that weed into that particular occasion. If it's a weed in a park or in a bank along the river, and it's just spots here and there, our park staff will go out and physically handle those weeds. Now we'll bag them, destroy them, and no chemical ever used. Maybe the river banks were a bad idea, or a bad example, because we're not allowed to spray along the water courses anyways. And then areas where we might have spotted growth in a field, we just go out with a weed whacker, send a guy out, and weed whack that down and clean it up. And you might see little spots in fields that might look like animals have bedded, but really it's us weed whacking. So we really try to avoid the use of chemicals within parks, not only because our belief is we want to try and limit the use of chemicals, not just because of the environment, but we want to also provide those natural habitats for pollinators and other wildlife that live in those spaces. Where we do on a regular basis, and sorry, annual, I'm not gonna say regular because we do once per year. Where we do spray chemicals annually in our open spaces is sports fields, tot lots, and municipal office. And we do that for a few obvious reasons. Our sports fields, we invest a lot of time and effort to maintain those fields, and if they become overrun with thistle and dandelion and other things, they're not that appealing, and no one really wants to play in a grass field that's full of thistle. Not to mention, some of those noxious weeds are woody, and when you mow them, they become tripping or just not ideal. Tot lots typically tend to be in residential neighborhoods, and you're gonna get both arguments on this one. You're gonna get people who complain that we're using chemicals in a child space and in a residential area. And then you're gonna get complaints because there's weeds growing in that space because one of the residents nearby that space is being infested with dandelion weeds. So we will apply what we call a weed and feed. And that does contain the chemicals that are of concern. But the weed and feed is really a broadleaf herbicide. So you can just spray it across the grass. Anything with a blade wide or a leaf that's wider than a blade of grass typically will die. For an example, Riverwood tot lot, which is probably the center of this concern at the moment. It's 0.44 of an acre, so we'll round that up to half acre for simplicity. The mixture rate on the herbicide that was used on that space is 1 liter, which is diluted by an additional 27 liters of water. So the dilution or the mix rate on that spread is quite diluted. And the applicator is restricted to the process of application. So it can't be windy, it can't rain. There's a relative humidity that they arrange that they're allowed to work within. And product is not allowed to be used around any water supplies. It's not sprayed up in heavy concentration on anything but the grass. And it's not even a heavy concentration. That herbicide is no longer transferable or harmful to anyone or any pets or other critters as soon as it dries. So that's why we spray on low wind days so that it doesn't get spread to something we don't want to spray. It's spread within a relative humidity range so that we can ensure that that product evaporates or dries very quickly. And once it's dried, it's absorbed into the plant. The plant takes that moisture in, and that residual is not there. So it's not harmful to pets. And the SDS sheets are very particular about where you can and can't use this material and how it's applied and the rates that it's applied at. Perfect. And that's my presentation.
What is the drying time on that?
Drying time on that would really depend on the temperature and the relative humidity, but you know, if it's applied early in the morning, so we would typically apply a herbicide on a sport field early in the morning, something that's less likely to be used, and then spray onto top lots later in the day when it's warmer, so it would evaporate dry quicker.
Roundup, I think, spray it, it's 2 hours. It can rain after 2 hours.
Yeah, and Roundup, we rarely use Roundup.
No, I'm not saying you're using Roundup, I'm just thinking because I can purchase Roundup as a home. I
And-
cannot purchase two.
And that's an interesting comment too, because Roundup, from a retailer's perspective, is extremely diluted. It is far less concentrated than a product that a professional applicator would use. And not because of anything more than, and I'm gonna take a shot at the general public here. Residents, especially residents that are very anal about the quality of their grass, have this sense that more is better. Hence why we only apply once per year. It's not necessary to do once. But you will see residents apply fertilizers at exaggerated rates. And Roundup is another one of those products. And Roundup is diluted enough that it's still effective. But if that resident wants to use 10 times the volume of material to complete the job, then they're just burning money, they're not actually harming anything. And just so you understand how those herbicides work, Roundup in particular, it's a growth enhancer. So what it does is it forces, when that plant uptakes that 2,4-D, it makes the cells hyper grow. They just start expanding until they explode. And that's what kills the plant. So in lighter doses, it can actually almost, well, it would have to be very, very light, but yeah. Anyways, we move both. It's just, it's the homeowner, or sorry, retail product versus commercial product. They're very different.
Anything else?
No, I might just email Craig. It's just, that's, needs to sell pesticides, but I've long since forgotten. I get a lot of these emails at this time.
No.
I think, where you've sprayed up at the Edgar Avenue Park over the years, it's been wonderful, because we do not get the dandelion flow coming into our yard, so I'm very thankful.
I just want to say thanks for the presentation and thanks for the research. I'm a huge fan of science, and years ago, 2,4-D was a cause for concern because of potentialities, right? And so I did some research this weekend, and Health Canada provided a scientific research study at the end of 2021. And this is their conclusion. Health Canada found that 2,4-D does not increase the risk of cancer and can be used safely by homeowners, provided label directions are followed. And that reiterates what you've determined, the policy that you are following. So thanks for the detailed presentation. Much appreciated.
And I'm happy to share to our town website if anyone feels it necessary to provide the SBS sheets.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
SDS sheets.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yes.
Thank you. Craig.
Thank you. That was very well detailed, and personally, I think it's perfectly fine. Let professionals use professional equipment to get the job done. So good job. Except for information. Excellent. Except inquiries for information. All in favor? Thank you, Cindy. Committees, boards, correspondence, and minutes. We have the Sheep River Library Board, and we have the Foothills Regional Services Landfill Commission. So I'll take one and one and make comment. So Library Board, Hazel.
So just a couple updates. The library will no longer be closed on Saturdays of a long weekend unless the staff calls on the Saturday. And the library board just recently hired Doreen, the town's health and safety advisor, to update all their occupational health and safety manuals and provide training where needed and follow any provincial government needs.
Excellent.
Yeah, so it's all been good.
She is a rock star.
Yeah.
And we had her at the parade, and same thing. She helped all of our organizations, nonprofits, gave them a little bit of heads up here, heads up there, comments, and yeah, just great.
Yeah, so the procedures all aligned with the town, so
Great,
everything
yeah.
happens at the library.
Good, motion to accept the information.
Yep. Yeah.
All in favor? Hazel gives us that. Thank you. And Foothills Regional Services landfill, that's yours as well.
Yeah, so the new shop design will be ready for viewing in August. So that big, park is going to, what's a little wood shed, I think. It's got to be recovered by a brand new shed. And the hydro pads that was installed last year is being well used this year because of all the construction going on west of Turner Valley. Everything from lots of dollars. And I'll give that motion to accept his information also. And just one comment to my fellow councilors. I haven't seen any EDC, NPC or Shrub for West Winds minutes.
I was just thinking, Hazel, I really appreciate your reports.
Heather.
Yeah, I asked for Shrek minutes, forwarded, so I'm gonna have to remind them again. Of course, they're not forwarding until they're adopted, so. Things are very things. I'll get those forwarded. FCSS, we really don't have a meeting lately, so we'll get those forwarded as soon as, or they haven't been adopted, sorry. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Put that on the radar as well.
We had MPC last night. Yeah, we should probably just be able to work out.
We get the adopted minutes.
So, yeah. I will say it was a good meeting.
I think that's one to pick up on the EDC piece.
Oh, yes, please.
If I could speak to BDC, I wasn't able to attend the last meeting, but I do believe that notes were provided and I could certainly compile those and provide them. I'm assuming that they were for public consumption.
Yeah, those haven't been approved yet though, right?
No, because the last meeting was, that's right,
Cancel.
the June meeting, but we couldn't meet quorums.
Thank you.
Okay, and that was, all in favor?
Aye.
Good, thank you. That was gonna be my comment as well. Hazel was just, an overarching, Hazel's been really good. And we've been really bad, so we should probably do a little better. So. You did say.
You said it better.
Yes. Totally did.
I think you're positive.
Yeah.
That was so soft. Actually, so you've been doing a great job. That's not your weak point, Counselor, you're not, but Hazel is.
Yeah. Okay, we have, three more reports here. RCMP Q1 report. Lovely letter from Don Reset, our, staff sergeant. As a lead into our report. Any concerns, on our reports? So we've got 5 years of history there. You can see some things are just, they're never gonna change. They stay right on the averages, I'll tell you. But if there's anything really that stands out here, that's something that we could mention to our staff sergeant to start to do a little extra work on. So if anyone has any concerns that they won't go into, I don't see anything glaring.
Are the Mountie moments still posted to the website? I know the website.
Chair, I've not received any requests for several months. So I believe that that was maybe something specific to past staff sergeant.
Okay.
Hey, Barry,
Yeah, go ahead.
can you just remind me again on who they're including in the detachment statistics? Like, is it just our town? Do we
It's
go
our
into the
zone.
county? Does it, Eden Valley?
Yeah, it includes all of their service areas, so right up to Kananaskis, down to Eden Valley, to the border, High River and Okotoks branch detachment, and everything west.
Is there, did we ask them when we had meetings with them if there's any way to get specific information for our community only?
Yes, he can break that down for us, yeah.
And we pay them.
All right, because now that we're moving,
The MPSA, right? Yes.
So we can ask for that. That's not a problem.
Yep. I would just like to know or see that. It would be very interesting.
Okay. We shall do that.
In the motion to accept this.
Yes, please.
I'll do that.
All in favor? All right, Sheep River Health Trust, before we get anywhere, tomorrow, I've already dropped the barbecue off in the Lions Club up at Rona. So they will be doing free hot dogs tomorrow from 11 to 3, is it? I believe. I'm pretty sure it's 11 to 3 tomorrow, free hot dogs up at Rona. And, they'll have the radio up there, so a couple comments.
10 to
5 bucks?
10 to 3, and they're factored.
10 to 3 and 5 bucks, there you go. Yeah,
They're not
the
free.
money probably matters, right? Yeah. Not,
the mayor said it was free, charge him.
well, hey, they'll get there and then they'll pay for it. Get them to the door first. So I'll give you a motion to accept this one for information.
Sure.
You, all in favor?
Free on Friday.
Carried, yeah, free up Friday. Stars Air Ambulance. What do we got there, guys?
No. Volunteer, volunteer awards.
Sorry. No,
There's stars.
okay, where's the? There, Alberta Volunteer Award. Okay, do we want to action anything there? We have till September 15th, knowing nominations cease September 15th. We have some lead time. Okay, I think this is something, you know, if we know, and we do have a fairly good feel for people on the ground here, if we know of the volunteer, and I like to do it a little bit anonymously to people who don't expect it.
Yeah.
But I think we should think hard on some of our volunteers that we can recognize. So I would ask council to bring back at the next council meeting, potentially someone who would be good. Bert.
I admire that thought very much. Your application requires them to sign off on it and other people supporting your nomination. It's actually a lot of work to put this nomination.
I
accept this information.
Just to them, it's their signature.
No, it's a huge amount of work to put one of these nominations.
So let's just accept for information.
Okay, motion by Gordon, accept for information, all in favor?
Yeah.
And that is carried. We will take a 5-minute recess and then we'll come back and go into closed. And we foresee no motion coming out of closed. But we will, definitely let you know if you want to stick online. So 5 minutes, Cindy. Can I get a motion to go in close, please?
I will.
Thank you, Hazel. All in favor? 9:26. Can we ensure that there is nobody online and no recording taking place?
There's no motions coming out after, is that correct?
There shouldn't be any motions coming out after.